Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Desk to Success, the podcast where we dive into all things education and help you create the best possible learning environments for your students. I'm your host for today, Gabby Colosi. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that can make a huge difference in a student's engagement, learning outcome, and overall classroom atmosphere. And that's classroom setup. How does a physical space affect learning? And how does routine and creating a safe environment play into all of this? And yes, we'll be talking about how classroom decor can directly impact a student's engagement to learning. Let's get into it. When we think about a classroom, most of us focus on the lessons we teach, the material we use, and the strategies we use to promote student success, right? But have you ever stopped to think about the actual setup of a classroom and how it can impact learning? From the arrangements of your desks to the space you've created for collaboration, every little detail in your classroom matters. The way you organize the space can either help or hinder a student's ability to focus, collaborate, and feel comfortable. For example, traditional rows of desks work well for individual tasks, but they don't encourage much interaction. If you'd like your students to work together, a more flexible seating arrangement, like clusters of desks or even lounge-style seating, might be a better choice for you. A flexible classroom allows for students to move around and change position, which is especially helpful for kinesthetic learners. Those are who learn best through physical activity, but also need to be ensured that the space feels organized and not too overwhelming for them. I would like to introduce Lisa Botiglio, a preschool teacher here in Burlington, and she's going to tell us a little bit about how she sets up her classroom tables for her preschoolers. Hi Lisa, so glad you were able to join us. I was hoping you could just give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself.
So I've been at the preschool for about 15 years, and I've kind of served in different roles.
Amazing. And if you could just tell me a little bit about how you set up your classroom for your kids.
So each of my tables, I have 3 different tables, I have 16 students, and I have them grouped according to where they are academically. I have one table that's a little bit higher, so I have 6 children at that table. So that's at one table. Another table I have like as my middle table. So that's a six, and then I have a table that needs a lot more support. So that's a table of 4 students.
Yeah.
So in my classroom, I have 3 teachers.
I see this tactic used often with a lot of teachers grouping their kids in tables with similar challenges. This helps both the teacher and the student, where the teacher can go over and get an understanding of where the kids are, and also makes the student feel more comfortable if they need to ask a few more questions or they're struggling a little bit more, they don't feel like the odd one out compared to all of their other classmates. After talking with Lisa, I read a few articles about how desks have a big impact on how a kid learns in school. In an article I read, it talks about flexible seating, which is a way to incorporate various seating options to cater to different learning styles and preferences. Some examples would be beanbag chairs, standing desks, floor cushions, stability balls, rocking chairs are all great options for students to choose from. Another very important aspect of a young learner's day for success would be routine. Routine will help a student know what to expect and allow them to feel more secure in the environment. When students have a clear routine, they're more likely to engage in the lesson because they're not distracted by the unknown. Well-established routine can help kids feel more prepared, reduce their anxiety, and will give them structure they need to focus. From a source I found from Child Care Education Institute, they write, at such a young age, kids are just beginning to understand how the world around them works. By setting clear, consistent routines, this helps provide a safer space where your students can thrive and will also help reduce anxiety and behavioral issues as the child feels more secure in knowing what to expect next. Something else that is a big part of a classroom setting is decoration. How you decorate a classroom can influence everything from a student's engagement to mood to productivity. People often overlook how powerful decor can be. It's not just about having a poster on a wall or a bulletin board with motivational quotes on it. Thoughtful decor can really spark a child's curiosity. It can even help promote classroom positivity. For example, displaying students' works creates a sense of ownership and pride. When the students see their own work on the wall that they can walk into class every day and see means a lot. It helps them make them feel like they matter in the classroom community. It's a great way to make them feel valued and a part of something bigger. When doing my research, I also talked to another preschool teacher, Miss Shalkowski. Talking to her, I brought up how important I thought that the decoration in a classroom is for young learners. When talking, she told me that she agreed with me, so I asked her if she could just describe to me a little bit about her classroom setup and decorations, and this is what she had to say.
So we definitely make sure we have a big area to display their work. So we want to make sure that the kids' work can be seen. They can see what they're doing. They can see that it's hung up. They get super excited about that. And then for the posters and things, there's just things that they would be able to connect to. So the theme in the classroom this year is Eric Carle. So all of the posters are related to that, to him as an author, and like they're familiar with him as an author. So I think that's super helpful.
By now, you've probably picked up on that one of the main factors in a classroom is to make the students feel comfortable. And Ms. Shalkowski's class is a perfect example of that. She's always hanging up the students' work. Like she also said, she has familiar artists around the classroom so the kids feel some sort of comfort. And this one might sound a little bit crazy what I'm about to say, but lighting is also a very big factor of a classroom's decor. So let's talk about a few different types of lights and how they will affect the kids in the classroom. First off, let's talk about natural light. Natural light is the light that comes in from the windows in your classroom, and research actually shows that natural light helps your brain stay awake and alert. Natural light is one of the best light sources you can get for focusing. Now let's talk about the opposite. If your classroom is too dark or too dim. Sometimes class can be fun if we turn the lights off for a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's not something we should always have. Studies have even shown that the dimmer light will make you usually feel more sleepy and a lot harder to concentrate. But have you also ever been in a classroom or any room where you feel like the lights are really bright and might be a little too harsh and hurt your eyes? That would be artificial light. Sometimes it's too much for the brain to handle. And with nowadays, a lot of work is on computers or iPads for kids, so having really bright artificial light and then also having to look at a screen would be a lot on the brain. So I bet you're thinking, so what's the best lighting for a classroom? It would be LED lights. LED lights are the best man-made lights for the classroom. Even though they won't be able to beat the natural light, it's the most similar we've been able to get to natural light from a light bulb. If you're not able to get that natural sunlight from outside into your classroom, the best alternative would be LED lights in your classroom. Also, remembering that you're working with young kids can be very hard. Leaving their parents at such a young age, just even for a few hours, can be really hard on the kids. So making sure that you build a great bond with them is very important. Because young kids do often either tell someone everything or keep everything to themselves. Like, if they don't feel good, they either might sit there and cry and tell you, or they might sit in the corner and cry and keep it all to themselves, which you never want to see a kid hurting by themselves. So teacher-student relationship is a very, very important thing to have in your classroom. This is a very known thing that all classrooms should have a positive relationship with everybody. And so I found a little clip that I'd like to share, just explaining it a little.
When children have experiences of closeness and consistency and trust, oxytocin is released. Oxytocin has many, many positive effects on the development of the brain. So when we think about a relationship, we're not just talking about being nice to a child. We're talking about a child having an experience of attunement and trust strong enough to release the hormone oxytocin.
And it could be something as simple as giving a hug to your student in the morning and asking them how their night was, what they had for dinner, what they had for breakfast that morning. Something simple like that where it just shows that you care about the student. And getting this relationship with your student is so important, just so that they know you always have their back and are always there for them. School is about having fun, right? So one of my personal favorite things that I read about was giving students a sense of ownership. One of the best ways I think you can show that to the kids is having daily or weekly jobs, which might sound a little silly, but they really do love it. No matter how big or how small the job is they get that day, it's gonna make them feel special in their own ways, whether they get morning meeting, greeter, or if they get front of the line, back of the line, whatever they get picked for that day, they'll go home feeling special, being able to go home and tell their loved ones what their job was at school. It's a great way to have routine, but switched up just a little, where every day the kids are going to know they're going to get a job, but it's not going to be the same exact job. So they're used to the regular routine of getting their jobs in the morning, but they never know if they're going to have the same one as the day before, or if they're going to have the same one their friend did the day before. So kind of changing up a little to keep them on their toes. And I know we already talked about how important it is for the actual table setups for the kids, but let's talk about the learning zones. Having different areas in the room dedicated to specific activities is a great way to keep the kids engaged and a very important organizational skill. A great way you could separate the room is by having a writing center, a crafts table, a STEM and literacy table, all separate. So when you're giving the kids directions, you can tell them to go to each table and they'll know exactly where to go. And you can have directions on the table or explain them beforehand so they know what to do at each table. And you keep all of the same material for that one station at the table so things don't start to get mixed up and lost with other work of other kids. Another great aspect about having the different tables separated for each station you send the kids off to is it's really, really good for planning the curriculum. Especially if we were coming up on a holiday or even just having a fun week, it's a really great and easy way to be able to separate the work in making, say you have a Dr. Seuss week. You can have a Dr. Seuss themed craft, a Dr. Seuss themed writing center, a Dr. Seuss STEM, and a literacy station. And it's just a great way to keep the kids involved and engaged in the work. And as the episode's coming to an end, let's just all remember what school is meant for. School is where you should have fun. Especially at a young age, you're full of excitement and new things to discover. From playing on the playground with your friends to going inside and learning new things in school every day. You get to go read fun stories, do creative arts, and explore the world through your own science experiments. Plus, your teacher makes everything feel adventurous, helping you learn and grow along the way. So just remember the setup of your classroom, from how you arrange your space to the routines you establish, to the way you decorate your walls and play a significant role in a student's engagement and success. It's not just about creating a visual appealing space, but it's about designing a space that supports learning, safety, and building a community. Every classroom is unique, so find what works best for your students. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, but being mindful and aware of your setup, routine, and environment, you can always create a place where your students can truly thrive in a classroom setting. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you found some inspiration for your own classroom.